Hey, welcome back. It's a Money Monday on Liquid Lunch, and we are talking about digital money today. Yes, we talk about cryptocurrency every day right here in the studio, but now with all the big mockers from around the world down in Vegas at the Litecoin conference and getting ready for CryptoCon, we have our very own Liquid Lunch consigliere, our attorney at large, is down there. He's on the ground. Manny Alicandro joins us. Hey, Manny, thanks for giving us a few minutes. I'm in studio with Carol Christ.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. How you doing?
So, Manny, Drew and Brett were just on. They had David Schwartz from the Litecoin Foundation giving us all the great developments with Litecoin. I wanted to kind of take a little different angle with you, being that you're our legal eagle, you're an MIT scholar, and you're one of the finest attorneys I know. You're down there, you were giving a talk on jurisdictions, and this is just another thing that people have to start understanding if there's going to be mass adoption. What's happening with the jurisdictional issues from a legal standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. So I moderated a panel with regard to jurisdiction. As you know, it's more and more difficult to do token projects, ICOs, clearly in the US, right? There's been a lot of regulatory pressure, a lot of ICO projects that went off in 2016 and 17. The SEC has really gone after them in a very aggressive way. So a lot of projects actually moved offshore in terms of if there's a utility token, for example, as opposed to a security token. And a lot of the places now that actually are very popular for digital assets and have very favorable regulation for digital assets, for example, are Bermuda. We were talking about Bermuda yesterday. We were talking about Liechtenstein. They have a complete new digital asset regulatory scheme, which they tie in the regulations, they tie in taxes. So it's very effective. It's very new. We're speaking about Malta as well. And I think one of the most interesting aspects of the panel, we had an attorney from Singapore. So he spoke about how digital assets and cryptocurrency are treated and viewed in Asia in terms of Korea, Japan, and China. But he really focused on China, and we're not getting a lot of press here on it. But the other day, the president of China made a statement that they're moving forward in blockchain, and they have been for quite some time. So from a competitive landscape, the U.S. is clearly, in my opinion, losing out to offshore entities, and now China is heavily in this game.
And yeah, Manny, one of the things that I talked about last week is that China and Russia have been trying to subvert the U.S. dollar, or as we refer to it, the petrodollar, which is backed by a currency basket, mostly of U.S. currencies. And they try to come out with the yuan dollar, and Russia was accepting, but no one else wanted to accept the yuan dollar. So now suddenly we say President Xi saying, we kind of like blockchain a lot, and I'm afraid they said they're going to make it like a stable coin, the government coin. The People's Bank of China is working on their own coin. The odds are they're going to back it with gold. So I think gold may be going up. And I think we may see a little threat from China and Russia because that yuan dollar may be a lot more widely accepted if it's Bitcoin, if it's a cryptocurrency and it's backed by gold. Any discussion down there about that stuff?
Somewhat. I mean, it was more really from the perspective of which jurisdictions are most favored today, because, as I mentioned, it's more and more difficult, if not impossible, to do projects in the U.S. But what was discussed was from a competitive landscape, and I'm glad you raised all those points. I think it's very important for our audience to know what's happening in the world globally. And from a competitive landscape, I think the U.S. is losing out. And I'm surprised the Trump administration and Trump is so competitive versus China, but Trump is clearly not a fan, in my perspective, of Bitcoin. Initially he focused on Libra and Facebook. We did have discussions at the Coin Agenda panel, the conference that I'm at. Which is at the Cosmopolitan. It's a great event, and there's a lot of discussion around Libra and Facebook. But if you look at what's going on there, that whole thing's become politicized, right? And then Trump tweeted, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, really attacking Libra and Facebook, and then all of a sudden pivoted into Bitcoin, right, but really talked about Bitcoin versus the U.S. dollar. So, I'm concerned that we're losing out, and the window of opportunity for the U.S. to step up and have favorable pro digital asset regulation, the window's closing for us.
Absolutely. Manny Alicandro, thank you so much. You're going to be down there all week. We're going to be checking back in with you the whole time. We really appreciate it, Manny. Thank you so much. Carol, they're talking, Manny made a good point there with these jurisdictions, and I think, for mass adoption in the U.S., we talked a little earlier about regulation and how some regulation, like to make people know there's someone's looking, is probably good. I just get nervous when I start hearing about Liechtenstein and Malta and these jurisdictions where most Americans probably don't want to put their money in a country that they've never heard of, like Liechtenstein. Like Bermuda, I think, is a great venue. That's the insurance capital of the world. You think we have some problems with maybe older investors getting their head around like the Liechtensteins and the Maltas of the world?
Well, I think that's an excellent point that you bring up, and certainly it's not ideal, and it certainly wouldn't be a first choice, because I think as it relates to the financial sector and finance, safety first, security, I think that's something that is highly valued. However, again, we need to go back to the motivation to prevent these ICOs and these token offerings from institutional banks, very large global banks. And investment banking is a huge profit center also,
That's
traditional
right.
investment banking. And that is dominated
Goldman
by
Sachs,
a select
Morgan Stanley,
few.
of course,
And
all
so,
the big markets.
So this democratizes that process, and so they're going to be resistant to that as well. But at the end of the day, what really happens, this is about market share and capturing market share in consumers. And ultimately, as with Glass-Steagall, with the elimination of that and opening the doors for traditional savings and loan banking to all sorts of other financial services, the same will hold true with those who capture those in the crypto space.
From now on this show, she's not just the former First Lady of Florida. She's the First Lady of Liquid Lunch. And one of my favorite fill-ins for Frankie. I want to thank you for spending some time with me today, Carol.
Thank you, sir.
You're the bomb. And thank you for inviting me to your birthday celebration last week.
Appreciate it very much.
A wonderful time. And we're going to have a wonderful time right here on Liquid Lunch next when one of my favorite money men comes in here. Michael McHale's going to be here from Stratton Equities to talk to you about your mortgage, your money, and all that stuff right after this. Quick break, back at you.